What if the most important inventions in human history, farming, cities, trade, law, even the first ideas about gods, were born not in glittering empires, but in quiet camps and small villages that left almost no more names behind? What if the invisible centuries between the Ice Age and the Age of Kings hold the real blueprint for how we live today? Tonight, we'll step into that missing chapter, into the archaic world where ordinary people did extraordinary, irreversible things. Hey everyone, I'm your name, Andy. Welcome back. If you love uncovering the hidden gears that turned prehistory into history, you're in the perfect place. In this video, you'll get a clear, engaging tour through the archaic period: who these people were, what they believed, how they fed themselves, why they built, traded, fought, and cooperated, and how their choices shaped the next 10,000 years. By the end, you'll be able to connect the dots from the first gardens and village shrines to the birth of cities and classical civilizations. Stick around for vivid stories you can picture, a clean summary you can remember, and a set of takeaways that will change how you see the ancient past. Picture the planet around 10,038,000 BCE. The great ice sheets retreat, light slow motion, oceans, rivers swell, coastlines redraw, forests advance, and the humans, already expert survivors, find themselves in new ecologies with new opportunities and risks. In some places, big ice age animals vanish, in others smaller game flourishes. The archaic moment begins not with a single invention but with a mindset: adapt, experiment, refine. Communities that once moved in tight seasonal circuits discover rich patches they can revisit and then stay. They test roots, seeds, nuts, shellfish, tubers, grind acorns to remove tannins, parch wild barley to store it, smoke fish for winter protein. Stone tools evolve heavier ground stone axes for woodlands, michaelites and barbed points for rivers and coasts. A toolkit becomes a system: hunting, fishing, gathering, processing, storing, each activity boosting the others. With stability comes time to observe, to compare harvests, to notice that certain seeds sprout better in disturbed soils, that cutting and burning invite nutritiously grows, that saving the biggest seeds changes the next season's plants. This is the psychological threshold of the archaic: survival turning into strategy, habit turning into innovation. The archaic era is a global chorus of parallel experiments. No more one master plan, many local solutions. In Southwest Asia, people who had long tended wild emmer and corn begin consciously replanting, weeding, and harvesting with sickle blades, selecting for non-shattering years so grains stay on the stalk, accidental breeding that becomes deliberate. Goats and sheep follow as managed herds, storage pits deepen, clay bins appear, and then pottery changes everything by allowing boiling, stewing, and safe rodent-proof storage. In North America, in the eastern woodlands, communities cultivate goosefoot, sumpweed, and little barley, later adding squash. In river valleys, they create seasonal food landscapes, burning underbrush to attract deer and encourage berry patches. On the northwest coast, salmon runs at a map-like calendars, weirs and smokehouses make protein portable. In China, along the Yellow and Yangtze rivers, early farmers shaped the destinies of millet in the north and rice in the south. Polished stone spades, cord-impressed pottery, and woven baskets join a growing technology stack. Villages like those of the Archaic culture clustered around communal houses and painted pots, each design a signature of identity. In Africa, in the Sahara before it dried out, people at Nabta Playa gather around seasonal lakes, experiment with herding cattle, and mark the horizon with stone alignments that may have had ritual or calendrical meaning, astronomy stitched to subsistence. In South Asia, at Mergera on the plains leading to the Indus, we see some of the earliest evidence for settled life in the region: barley cultivation, domestic cattle, bead making, and dentistry so early it feels like science fiction. In the Andes on Peru's coast and highlands, early communities balance fishing with the domestication of gourds, beans, and later potatoes, while in the North Chico or Charal region, monumental platform mounds lies without ceramic technology, a reminder that architecture and social coordination do not always wait for the same milestones. In Oceania, the Lapita horizon spreads across island arcs with remarkable navigation, carrying domesticated plants and animals in portable ecosystems: taro, yam, breadfruit, pigs, chickens. Canoes become seed arcs. The sea turns into a highway. What ties these stories together is not just agriculture, it's the domestication of predictability. Food becomes forecastable, schedulable, storable. This shrinks, population grows, and with more mouths to feed and more hands to work, societies can invest in specialization: potters, weavers, carvers, toolmakers, proto-careers forming in village lanes. Stomachs are satisfied, but spirits demand answers. The archaic world invents spaces for meaning. Burial grounds show patterned care. Bodies oriented to sunrise, graves dressed with shells or ochre, children wrapped in woven cloth, elders sent off with tools. In North America, early mound traditions appear. In Europe, long barrows and dolmen-smite ridges. In the Near East, houses keep plastered skulls of ancestors' memory made visible. Ritual is not decoration, it is coordination technology. A feast binds neighbors to help at harvest. A taboo protects a vulnerable fishery. A shared story enforces fairness without police. Around hearths and courtyards, stories calcify into myths, myths into seasonal rites, rites into architecture, the first shrines, altars, and public platforms. In the Mediterranean, this impulse eventually flows into the Greek Archaic, hilltop sanctuaries, stone temples, and statues corridor and decorai that face the world with confident symmetry. The gods were recognized from classical Greece. Zeus, Athena, Apollo have their roots hid in older, humbler altars. Art accelerates, pottery gains painted narratives, textiles carry clan patterns, figurines suggest fertility, protection, or simply style. Music echoes on anemo skin drums and bone flutes. The archaic imagination is not a sideshow, it's the glue that holds new, larger communities together. As villages stabilize, they begin to talk through traders, messengers, and marriage ties. Rivers become conveyor belts, obsidian from volcanic uplands, shells from coasts, salt from flats, copper from veins in distant hills. A bead is not just pretty, it is proof that your village is connected. Trade Foss's invention of measures, cords knotted to lengths, baskets standardized by volume, fixed stones used as weights. Fairness evolves before courts, custom becomes law. When disputes outgrow custom, councils assemble, elders arbitrate, gifted speakers become leaders. Leadership can drift into privilege, privilege can harden into rank, rank, if it survives crises, can become authority. Where there is surplus, there is also competition. Raids for livestock, skirmishes all for water rights, tensions between Lieferfeli and the steppe. New weapons appear, stronger bows, composite mace, heavier shields. Wooden palisades ring villages, ditches slow attackers. But conflict also seeds coalition. Allied hamlets share watch duties, exchange hostages as trust tokens, and celebrate together to ease the next negotiation. Proto-urban places sprout where trade paths cross. Market days become weekly routines. Strangers add a suddenly normal. In North America, sites like Poverty Point in Louisiana gather us into massive ridges and mounds, landscapes converted into meeting machines. In the old world, tall mounds stack houses upon houses until a hill is history in layers. The stage is set for cities, but the actors are still villagers at heart. Archaic isn't one costume, it's a phase, the human learning curve, worn by different peoples in different styles. In Greek archaic times, the polis takes shape, self-governing city communities organizing citizenship, debate, and defense. Hoplite soldiers form phalanxes, a tactic that demands discipline and equality in the line. Colonies spread across the Mediterranean, exporting wine, oil, and ideas. Poets like Homer knit shared identity. Logothers like Solon codify social compacts. The classical age doesn't drop from the sky. This is its assembly workshop. In North American archaic, the Great Basin mobile families master seasonal rounds, exploiting wetlands, seeds, and small game with astonishing efficiency, while eastern woodlands gardeners tend indigenous crops long before maize dominance. Shell meadens, it works, and long-distance exchanges show complexity without kings. In the Near East, at Atelier in Anatolia, houses pet wall-to-wall, rooftops act as streets, interior shrines bloom with bullhorns and ochre. Later, Halaf and the Ubaid culture spread painted pottery and village temples across Mesopotamia, quiet rehearsals for the urban drama vuru. In South Asia, at Mergaruesi, long houses, storage rooms, craft specializations, bead drilling and early dentistry hinting at organized care, long apprenticeships, and a taste for beauty. These threads later weave into the Indus city's precision, grids, drains, standardized bricks. In China, the Yangshao painted pottery villages give way to more stratified Longshan communities with rounded walls, black burnished ware, and the hints of social linking. The recipe of millet and rice agriculture plus craft specialization primes the rise of Bronze Age states. In the Andes, at Charal or Norchico, we see monumentality without obvious warfare or pottery, platform mounds, sunken circular courts, cotton cultivation for nets supporting massive fisheries. Here, labor coordination and the ritual spectacle precede kings and the metal. In Oceania, the Lapita world shows intricately stamped pottery mapping expansion routes across thousands of kilometers. Languages, plants, animals, and the design motifs travel together culture in a canoe. Each case is a local answer to the same question. How do we make more life out of the same land, together, without tearing each other apart? To bring this world alive, imagine dawn lifting a silver mist from a river in the eastern woodlands, a girl named Taya holding a basket of seeds, pressing them into soil, her hand later lifting a heavy squash, laughter filling the air, memory turning into food. Or picture a trader named Hanu stringing a shell bead next to obsidian, lighter by a stone but heavier by a story, he'll trade again. Or step into a mud-walled room where a young mother kneads clay under the watchful plastered skull of an ancestor, pressing a spiral that says our house made this. Picture two villages meeting on ridges, sealing water rights not with ink but with calories, meat, fish, nuts, honeyed brew, then dancing into the night. Or a child in Anatolia stepping from rooftop to rooftop, each floor beneath his feet a chapter in a hill that remembers. or alapita navigator steering by stars, carrying tarot cuttings, a pig, a basket of breadfruit slips the genome of a future village smiling into the dead because home is what you bring and what you share. Everyday archaic life was breakthroughs hidden in ordinary rhythm. Houses traced by post holes, hearts moving to the center, grenades lifted on stilts, spindle whirl spinning thread, baskets coiling, bone needles stitching, dyes painting textiles, willow bark easing pain, clay settling stomachs, flint drills humming in dentistry at Mergara. Gender roles flowed with tasks and skills, not rigid ideology. Elders mediated disputes. Phenology marked time. Alignments of stones and shadows turned the sky into calendars. Teaching lived in repetition and music. Children learning by doing. Memory stitched into song, joke, and woven pattern. The archaic legacy is everywhere. If you eat bread, store rice, ferment yogurt, smoke fish, brew tea, or save seed, you're doing archaic work. If you meet at seasonal festivals, count days, or settle disputes by custom, you're leafing archaic inventions. Cities, empires, alphabets, and philosophies are extensions of habits nailed down here. Even risks warfare, inequality, ecological stress were prototyped here, as were their countermeasures, alliances, taboos, resource rules, shared grenades. The archaic world teaches that advanced and sustainable don't always march together, and the complexity without humility can break the systems that feed us. That lesson is not ancient, it's urgent. So what have we uncovered today? That the biggest moves in human history were made by small, mostly nameless communities. We saw climate change open new ecologies, and the people pivot from survival to strategy. We tracked the food revolution across continents, from wild harvest to deliberate domestication. We stepped into ritual spaces where belief coordinated behavior and the stitched identity. We followed villages knitting into networks of trade, custom, proto-law, sometimes rank, sometimes cooperation. We toured Greek archaic city building, North American networks and the gardens, Near Eastern shrines and details, South Asian crafts, Chinese agricultural engines, Andean monumentality, and the lapita voyaging. We felt it through stories of seeds, beads, pots, feasts, rooftops, and the starlit canoes. The takeaway is that the archaic is not a blurry preface, it's the blueprint. If this journey reframed how you see the past, like this video so more people find it, subscribe for deeper dives into the hidden hinges of history, and tell me in the comments which archaic moment grabbed you most: the first fields, the first shrines, the first markets, or the canoes, crossing a night ocean by the stars. Your ideas shape the next episodes. Until then, keep your curiosity sharp, your questions brave, and your sense of wonder archaic-sized.